Hi, I'm Brett Dillon, CEO of the Dillon Group, Inc. And I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about product and offering design. Recently, I was on a flight from Houston to Lexington, Kentucky. And I get on board the plane, and we're sitting there, and they're going through the announcement. The stewardess is going through all the stuff about the safety guides and all the rest of this. And she started telling us where the exits were, and there were two forward exits, one that we came in and one directly opposite, and then there were two exits mid-plane, one over each wing. Now I happen to be sitting in the very back row of the plane, which is my favorite place to sit. And I was sitting back there, and she said something that I thought was extremely odd. She said, "In case of a water evacuation, your seat cushion can be used as a flotation device. The children's life vests are located in the back of the plane." And I'm looking around, and nobody else seemed to be disturbed by this, that if you have a child and you're sitting anywhere other than the very back row, you're going to be fighting the mass of humanity trying to exit the plane off all the exits which are in the front of the plane. And I started looking around for, like, where is there a special children's life vest container? Is there something that says a children's life vest? No, the airplane engineers didn't do this. They just had overhead bins that had children's life vests in them. So this was something very clearly the airline staff decided, United Airlines staff decided that that's the best place that they could put children's life vests, in the back of the plane, as far away from the exits as possible in case of an emergency evacuation in water. Well, that's a terrible way to design a product. So I started thinking about, why would they do that? Because they're rational human beings, and clearly, I'm pretty sure United Airlines does not want children to drown. So I thought, why would they do this? And then it occurred to me that they probably did it out of convenience. Because if you take up overhead bins near the exits, then all the people who sit in the exits, particularly because they're not allowed to have their luggage shoved underneath the seats in front of them, they have to have their luggage stored in the overhead bins there. So it's a little bit of a lack of planning. And it's very inconvenient for those passengers to have to get out of their seats and get the luggage from either side of the row in front of them or the row behind them. So, clearly they don't want to inconvenience those people, and so they store all of the children's life vests in the very back of the plane. But what's the one thing that we want out of the airlines? We want safe travel. And we don't want disasters when disasters strike an airline. We don't want something that was done merely for convenience to all of a sudden cost lives. Yet that's exactly what they have potentially done. They've modified a product, their airline flight, in order to deliver convenience over safety. But safety and human life should take precedence. And they neglected to think about the one thing that is really, really important to those of us who are on a plane in such an emergency. We want to live. And we want our children that are with us to live. And that should have been the overriding factor, not whether or not they inconvenience passengers on every flight, but whether they kill passengers accidentally or allow passengers to die accidentally because of bad offering design in the case of an emergency. And yes, it's a black swan event. Airline travel is extremely safe. But when it does happen, it's also extremely public. It's not something you'd be able to hide. And in the course of an investigation, it would come out that the children's life vests were stored at the back of the plane. Now, I'm pretty sure that those of you who are watching this, if anybody is watching this at all, you're not in the airline business and you have nothing to do with this, but you need to stop and think about your offerings and your products that you've developed, that you've designed from your customers' perspectives, from the user's perspectives. What is the one thing they're going to value most? And think about all those situations that could come up in the use of that product or in the use of that service that you offer. Think about the context. And when you get to the context part, you start thinking about, well, what happens if things go wrong? What do we want? Do we want it to be a safe environment for them if things go wrong? Do we want there to be an element of sort of a buffer for them? Or do we want them just to say, well, hang on, it's going to be a wild ride, and stand back and watch as our businesses disintegrate? I think we really need to take a look at our offerings from the perspective of the customers and the perspectives of their customers that our offerings have an impact on. And we need to start designing our offering based on that and based on those needs, and then take into consideration what happens when things go wrong. Because I can guarantee you, just like life in business, everything will go wrong at some point. And when it does, you need to be prepared and you need to be the easy button for your customers.